VA loans. If you have questions or interested in about general understanding about how VA loans work, this is the video for you. I'm pleased to be joined by Mark Lusk. Mark is a U.S. Army veteran, one of our senior loan officers down in Texas. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Clark?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk a little bit about VA loans. So Mark is really our in-house specialist when it comes to this area. So I thought it'd be a great time to have him on, talk about some of the basic fundamentals of a VA loan, and then at the end we'll talk about some common myths and how and how people may be misunderstanding how VA loans work out in the market. So Mark, if we look at a VA loan, let's start with the basics, right? What in a VA loan, what is the down payment requirement?
That's the great thing about a VA loan. In most cases, there is no down payment. There's always still going to be closing costs you got to come out of pocket with, but zero down payment. And like I said, that's most cases, not all cases, but we can get into that a little bit later on down the road.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. And then, similar to and we do a lot of FHA loans. There's mortgage insurance. Is there mortgage insurance PMI on a VA loan?
There is not. There's no PMI on a VA loan. That's the one nice thing about it. Like a conventional loan, you got mortgage insurance, things like that. If you don't put 20% down in FHA, there's always the mortgage insurance on there. So that's the great thing about a VA loan. Even with zero money down, there's no kind of mortgage insurance at all, ever.
Awesome. So if you're a veteran, this program's a no-brainer. You have to take advantage of it. And I guess the big question we always get when talking to potential VA customers is, what's my interest rate? Where do interest rates fall compared to a conventional loan or a jumbo loan, or where typically do interest rates fall in comparison to other loan products?
Generally, VA is going to be lower.
Okay.
They're going to be very comparable with FHA. Sometimes they're even better than FHA. A lot of times they are. They're definitely better than conventional. Even with jumbo, VA loans can be a jumbo loan. So they're still going to get better rates even on jumbo as VA.
Oh, I didn't know that. So you can do a jumbo VA loan.
Correct. Yeah, there is actually no limit on how large of a loan you can do for VA on your initial VA loan. If you have 100% of your entitlement, you can have a mortgage loan, $5 million, $10 million, it doesn't matter. Still zero down.
Interesting. Okay. And then from a qualification standpoint, what are the basics? What are the fundamentals that, somebody that's thinking about buying their first home, who's a veteran, what do they need to be thinking about from a qualification standpoint?
The great thing about VA loans is they don't work off of debt to income necessarily. They're more off residual income for the VA standards. Each lender has their own debt to income qualifications that they want you to be at, but the VA themselves do not have a debt to income requirement. I've seen them all the way up to 76% debt to income. So this makes it much easier for veterans to qualify for a home loan that they want because we're going off residual income. So obviously, you want to make sure that you're going to be safe in making that payment. You don't want to overextend yourself, stay in your budget, but you don't need as much cash to close. Your debt to income doesn't matter as much as long as you have residual income. As far as credit qualifications, again, the VA does not have an actual credit standard as far as a number. Each lender generally has a number that they work with. We can go generally down to about 580. And from 580, we can kind of work from there, anywhere from 580 up. But like I said, VA itself does not have an actual credit qualification.
Got it. And then obviously Pure Funding's a mortgage broker, so we have a number of lenders that we work with on VA loans. Anything else that is a common roadblock from a qualification standpoint that we should talk about?
Not really. As far as, because VA, they're probably the easiest loan to qualify for veterans. They have probably the highest close rate because it is easy for veterans to qualify. So when it comes down to things that come up down the road, like insurance and things like that, we're seeing a lot of problems with the insurance being higher. But when it comes to veterans, we're not hitting that hard line in the sand for the debt to income. As long as we still have the residual income to qualify, then we're good to go. And on top of that, I can take VA disability income, non-taxable income, and I can gross that up by 25% to give us extra income.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Well, that's a big 25%. Wow.
Correct.
That's quite a significant amount. And then the kind of the ability to repay, it's just based on really what the lender requirements are.
Correct. Yeah. And I was saying, like, if we're getting close on those numbers, let's say a veteran is 100% disabled and they're collecting roughly $4,000 a month. I gross that up. Now they make $5,000 a month. That's a huge difference when you're talking about being able to be eligible and qualifying for the loan.
Got it. Got it. So let's talk about like some of the common myths out there in the market. One of the common myths that we hear, if I get a call, it's like, hey, I'm a veteran. I'm interested in a loan. I hear there's, a tremendous amount of red tape. The time to close is extended. There's, all these other kind of, I have to, the certificate of eligibility is a very complicated process for me to figure out. Like what is that a myth? Like basically it's a lot of red tape or it takes longer to close, or is that a common understanding with VA loans?
No, that's going to be a myth. I mean, VA loans don't take any longer to close generally than any other loan out there. Certificate of eligibility shows that the veteran is eligible for a VA loan, and it shows how much entitlement they have. That is something that we can direct the veteran to get themselves, or I can actually pull the certificate of eligibility for them and make it super easy. It takes me generally about 5 minutes to pull that, and I have it, and I can go over all that stuff. When it comes to time to close, like I said, it's really not any longer than anything else. The only time that it can start getting a little bit longer is once the market really picks up, because there's less VA appraisers out there. Because not every appraiser can go do a VA home inspection appraisal. So therefore, if they are super busy, then it be delayed just a little bit until they can get out there. But it's not going to be weeks. It may be an extra day or 2 days on the appraisal. So that's the only time it can really take a little bit longer. But generally, we're still going to be closing in the same amount of time that we close an FHA deal or conventional deal.
So not long enough that you're extending the lock period from 30 to 45. It's just it's small increments of time that it could take based on the availability of appraisers.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, even when we saw the market like super packed when everybody was just buying left and right, the delays came with all appraisals. So in that specific time frame, we're going to be delayed a little bit, but so is everybody else. So it's not like conventional loans get the same thing. They're going to have an appraiser that gets backed up, and because there's going to be more conventional loans out there. So it's going to be about the same. We can still get them moving along.
Okay. Another common question I get is you can only use a VA loan once. Is that true?
No. So that's where the certificate of eligibility comes in, and it kind of gives us the remaining entitlement. You can have more than one VA loan at one time. They're meant to be primary residence. So with military moves around, moves from station to station. So let's just say somebody was in North Carolina and they bought a home and they only used half of their VA entitlement. Well, they still have 50% of that entitlement. Where they come to Texas, they can keep that home, turn it into a rental property, and buy a new primary residence here. So as long as they're buying a new primary residence, and as long as they fall under still have enough eligibility left, then it's still zero money down. If they get past the amount of eligibility they have left, then you start having an actual down payment, but it would still be a VA loan where you don't have PMI.
Got it. And then as far as refinances go with the VA loans, any difference in the process there?
Sure. It's actually super simple. A VA loan, it's called a VA IRRRL. It's a VA interest rate reduction refinance. And what it's designed to do is be streamlined. So you're going to be able to, I don't have to get income documentations, any of that good stuff, because the VA already understands.
Already has it.
You can make that payment. You're proving you can make that payment. So now if we're reducing that payment because we're reducing your interest rate or your term or something like that, then it's super simple. Many times we don't need an appraisal, anything.
Got it. And then, I mean, obviously we're very fortunate to have you on board with your understanding of this process and your military background. But what would you tell people as if they're out there, what to look for in a loan officer? Can any loan officer write a VA loan? I'm not sure how that policy works.
Sure. As long as your agency will allow you to write a VA loan, you can write a VA loan. but there's a lot of things that people are scared of because they're scared of the appraisal because they don't know what people need to look for. They're scared of, the residual income because they don't understand how it works. They don't
Yep.
understand how the entitlement works, all that good stuff. So if you find someone that's a good, well-rounded loan officer that has a lot of VA experience, you'll be much better off because, in my opinion, a VA loan is the easiest loan product we have. It's
Okay.
super easy. I'd say probably 90% of all my business is VA loans. I love
Okay.
doing them and I love working with veterans. Being a veteran myself, it makes it easy for me to communicate with veterans. For one, I know how to tell them to get forms. I know where to go on va.gov to get forms, all that good stuff. And I can talk their language. We can get along. Anybody in the military generally has almost an automatic brotherhood or
Yep.
sisterhood. So everybody gets along really well, and we can just have a good time and feel comfortable with each other.
Awesome. Well, Mark, it goes without saying, but again, thank you for your service and thanks to all our vets out there. As you can tell, Mark is very well versed in the VA products. So if you're in the market, please give us a shout. We'll include all of Mark's contact information when we get this video out the door. But Mark, listen, thanks so much for taking the time. Thanks for talking about the basic fundamentals, also kind of busting some myths about VA loans and just helping people, helping our vets kind of gain a better understanding of what it takes. Really, it's an amazing program. If you are a vet and looking to buy a home, there is no better option out there for you. So get in touch with us. We'd be more than happy to help walk you through the process, help you with any of the questions you might have or concerns you might have down the road. Or if you're just in the early stages of preparing to buy a house, Mark's the guy to talk to. So Mark, listen, thanks so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. Everybody, if you could like and subscribe to our video, leave us comments, leave us questions. Either myself or Mark will get back to you. But as always, we appreciate you tuning into Pure Perspectives, and we'll have more content for you soon. Thanks again, Mark. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.